I'm Tanya. I'm the creator and director of More Aromatherapy. In fact, it's predominantly me and Holly, who's standing behind the camera here. And today I want to take you through the basics you need to set up your workspace if you want to manufacture. This doesn't need to cost a lot of money. It can be quick and easy, and some of the things you'll even already have at home. So the most important thing we need to start with is sterilisation. Now you can use methylated spirits, or like I've done, I've created my own surgical meths using ethanol. Surgical meths you can buy from the pharmacy. Surgical meths versus ethanol is a dilution of 30% to 70%. So it's 70% meths, 30% water, just to dilute it down a bit. Then we have then sterilisation, so you can use that, or you can use something like Brewtech, which is a no-rinse sterilisation. Predominantly used for the brewing industry, really good for doing your containers in if you have plastic packaging you want to sterilise. For measuring, you need scales. Most products are made by weight, so you can get a 1 gram scale. So these, when I turn them on, it's a multi-unit one, but you can see it's, is that showing up? Down. Yep, so you can see it goes to one, that's set on kilos, but you can go down to grams. For small amounts, you need a scale like this, which measures to 0.3 parts of a gram when it decides to talk to me. Oh, and now it wants a new battery. That would be right, wouldn't it? They tend to chew batteries, it's a real pain. However, it's a 0.001, here we go, sorry, 0.01 gram, that way. So you can see that, so that's how that measures. Let's stop. Okay, so then you're working in ground, here we go, now it wants to talk to me. So it's doing that in grams now, so that's parts of a gram. So these two I use the most. Next you'll need is measuring volumes, because if you're just working with liquids, some recipes you'll see are liquids. I like flasks, which I sterilise. That's a 500 ml. I like measuring cylinders. This one's a 250. These are 100. Also, measuring cups are really handy. Oh, this one's washing off, but this one does teaspoon, tablespoon, ounce measures, which is quite handy when you're looking at some recipes, because you can sit this on the scales, put in the quantity it says in the recipe, and get a weight. And then you can record your weights for future development, because weights are important if you're increasing your recipe. These little glass beakers, they're really good for making beeswax balms in, because they can be put in a heated pot and they clean up really well afterwards too. I mean, I've had these for, gosh, must be at least 20 years now that I've had these beakers. I've got a few of them. I have here another measuring cylinder, and you might be able to see the big one on the shelf behind me, which is a 2 litre, and this is a 1 litre. We also need bowls to mix in, depending on what you're making. These are good for cold formulations, although these can also go in the microwave if you need to make gels and stuff. This is a 2 litre bowl. They're cheap. They come from in New Zealand, Warehouse and Kmart. And silicone spatulas. These silicone spatulas that are all in one are fantastic, because they're so easy to sterilise, and you know you're not going to get anything, and no greeblies in the joints, so they're really good. So everything before manufacturing gets cleaned, absolutely wiped out and sterilised. For measuring essential oils, ones that don't have drippers, we have droppers, which also come in different sizes. So this one is a 3 ml, this is a 1 ml with little increments. Every one of these sections, which I don't know how well you can see that on here, every one of these sections on here is equivalent to 5 drops if you're measuring from essential oils. This makes it easier because 20 drops is 1 ml, but not all droppers are equal. So by using these, you get a more accurate dosage. For measuring powders, scooping out powders, especially cosmetics, we have these teeny tiny little scoops, and they'll measure out powders. This is 0.01 of a gram, I think, from memory. It's been a while since I've had to measure it that way. The next important thing is blending. So as well as your spatula, you'll need a stick blender. You don't need an expensive one, you just need a cheap one. Better still, you need a cheap one that you can throw in the dishwasher to clean it, and you can easily sterilize. And you need one that you can easily sterilize. So essentially what I do is I pour my surgical meths into my bowl, or my beaker, not that one, my bigger one, and I run it in it so it gets all up inside there, and then I'm not gonna cut myself trying to get in there and clean it all out to make sure it's all sterilized. And you sterilize it all the way up, the whole thing, even in there. You sterilize the whole thing, because this is where greeblies can breed, and you don't want them ending up in your formulator, because if this seal here starts to go, it can leak down. Not a pretty sight, not a fun experience, and can be a waste of money. Okay, so that's that little one done. Next we have testing, microbial testing. How to test for fungi and bacteria. So making cosmetics, do these really cool test kits where one side, here we go, one side tests fungi, one side tests bacteria. Now let me make sure I get this right. Pink. I'm so sorry, I cannot remember which is which. It's been a while since I read it properly. I just do it and they come up clear. So yeah, one side's bacteria, one side's fungi. If you haven't sterilized your product, this is what happens. This one got bacteria, there, that's bacteria, did not get fungi. This is as we played with different forms of this was no preservative, so this is fungi and bacteria breeding. Then we played with different types of preservative to see what results we got, and you can see some of them weren't successful for this product, all really pretty. And then we have this one and this one. This one is in beginning of last year, and it still has never developed anything, just faded. And this is a batch I made a couple of weeks ago. So if they've got nothing on them in 48 hours, they're usually okay. That's the normal time to test. So you literally put your product in something like a beaker and you dip it. In fact, that's also where this little ironing thing comes in handy, because it doesn't use as much formula, because you take it out and you dip it in. And as you can see, if you use less space, it's better. The other thing that's a necessity in your workshop is plastic bags. As you make things, put them away. And then if you're wondering about heating, here I use a gas stove, but we've just been camping, so it's still in the caravan. So we're going to collect it. If you're at home, you can use your stove. You can use a saucepan over a saucepan as a double boiler. And and you should always have a fire extinguisher nearby because you're using flammable liquids and you never know when they're going to go boom. For health and safety, when you're manufacturing, you should always have your hair up in a hairnet. Depending on what you're using, you'll need a respirator or a face mask, depending on how volatile the products are. Especially if you're going to make soap, you should always wear a respirator if you're making cold pour soap. And we also have disposable aprons, and if you are wearing a cotton apron or fabric apron, you need to wash it every time, because otherwise you can pick things up off it, because you could go like that with your hand and next thing you're touching something. And that even applies if you're wearing gloves. Gloves are optional. Washing your hands is extremely important. You should always wash your hands before you put your gloves on, and depending on your type of personality, like if it's messy, yes, you want to wear gloves, but you have to remember when you've got gloves, you can't touch from here to there, because you will spread whatever bacteria around. Whereas if it's on your hands, you're more aware of it and you wash your hands more often. The other option is to have a big box of gloves sit next to you, so you constantly can change your gloves. So I think that wraps it up for the basics for today. If you have any questions, please put them below, and I'll actually make a list, which I have in my cosmetic kits, of your basic tools, and I'll put that down below as well. Okay, so au revoir.